Hello again, friends. In this video, I will share with you a few more techniques that I used in creating my patches. The reason that we are experimenting with making patches in this Make Art kit is to invite you all to take a closer look at an abridged sonic history of global conflict. This exhibition features a collection of patches inspired by years of research that artist Lee Henderson has undertaken. Lee Henderson finds band names originally inspired by militarized themes and then designs patches featuring these band names in ways that are meant to connect the band name back to those themes. One very basic idea that I took from the designs of Lee Henderson's patches was a use of color contrast. In color theory, contrasting colors are colors from the opposing segments of the color wheel. Colors that are directly across from one another on a basic color wheel provide maximum contrast. Also possible to use contrast in a tonal scale with the same colors, just going from light to dark. So it was in thinking about these contrasting colors and tones that brought me about to selecting this magenta felt as a layer between this pale blue star and the black felt circle. The circle in the stencil is the same width as the star and just a little bit smaller than the black felt, so this size will actually create a solid black border that I think will look really nice. One thing that I really like about working with this peel and stick felt is that we can draw right on the paper backing to create whatever shapes and patterns we can dream up. So I'm going to flip over the felt and use the stencil to draw a circle shape that I want to cut out. And now that I have cut out my circle, I will peel the backing paper off and layer this smaller circle in the center of the larger one. Now with my needle and thread, I'm going to attach the blue star to the other layers and add some details at the same time. I will be using a straight stitch or running stitch, which is the basic stitch that all other sewing and embroidery methods stem from. Traditionally, a straight stitch is worked by passing the needle in and out of the fabric at a regular distance. You can see here that I am running this stitch in and out of the corners of my star to almost draw a smaller star within. A straight stitch doesn't have to only move in a straight line. To create a curve in a running stitch, work smaller stitches over the curved line that you want to create. Knots aren't necessary in any embroidery project because you can secure the ends of the threads in other ways. In fact, knots can make the backside of a project untidy and bumpy, and you can often see or feel those knots on the front of the piece even. The neatest way to lock the ends of your thread into place is to weave your loose ends under a few of the stitches on the back of the work and then cut it off close to the stitching. And since we are using felt that has a peel and stick backing, we can use that sticky backing to lock the thread into place. To hide all of my stitches and create a smooth backing for my patch, I'm going to cut another circle into this felt and stick it to the underside of my patch. I'm going to set this patch aside now and show you a few of the tricks I used in some of the other patches I made. For this cactus patch, I followed many of the same steps as I did in the patch I just shared with you. I cut out shapes in my peel and stick felt and then layered them over this black circle. I then used a straight stitch to outline those segments in a cactus, and then I used a French knot to create the little spikes. To create a French knot, bring the needle through the fabric from the underside, and then with the hand that isn't holding the needle, hinge the thread a few inches from where it's come out of the fabric. Wind the thread around the needle once or twice, depending on the size of knot you want. It's really important to make sure that you've placed the needle in front of the thread and that the thread is getting wound over the needle. Now reinsert the tip of the needle just next to, but not into the same point it came through the fabric in the first place. Make sure that the thread is wrapped snugly around the needle. Now push the needle all the way through and pull until the thread trailing behind has gone all the way through the knot. For some of the French knots I've made here, I have wound the thread around the needle more than just once or twice. Sometimes 4 times, I think once even maybe 5 or 6. It's really up to you how large you want to make your French knots. I hope you'll take some time to have fun with French knots and thinking about how you could use them at other places, like I did here for my strawberry seeds, or on the letters when I was dotting my I and my exclamation point on this speech bubble patch. For the letters in my speech bubble patch, I used what is called a satin stitch. To start, I used a straight stitch to create an outline and then wove my thread over the outline stitches to fill in the space solidly. You don't want to pull too tightly in this part of the process, otherwise your letters will become a little more skinny than you maybe planned. You can also work a satin stitch without stitching an outline, as I did for the border around this patch. You can finish your patch in a number of ways to make it wearable. You can sew a pin back like this into place with your needle and thread. Or if you know the perfect spot for your patch, you can sew it directly into place. If you have a hot glue gun, you can use a dot of hot glue to fasten the pin back in place. Just be sure that the glue has had adequate time to cool. You can also use safety pins by attaching them to the back of your patch. I really hope you have a lot of fun making your own patches, and I hope you'll share your creations with us. Be sure to tag us on Instagram or Facebook and use the hashtag JaneAgArtAtHome.